All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to TeaCup Entrepreneurs. I am so excited for you to join us this week. And this week we are spotlighting Leah Andreoni. And Leah has been in the mental health field for 20 years, working in various roles to help families and children. As a therapist, she's moved towards supporting the perinatal woman with family planning and postpartum mental health. As a mom of two and a business owner, she understands the difficulty with balancing her roles as a mother, a wife, a friend, and a career woman. She uses these experiences to help support the education of other women to find balance, to release the guilt that holds us back as women, and all of the things. So we're really excited to have you here, Leah. Welcome. And
Thank you.
let's just dive right in because
Yeah,
all of the things.
let's do it.
So let's start with like
Mm.
all of those roles that you have as a woman.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, all of them. I guess the first and foremost one is being a mom,
yeah,
right? That one kind of happened, you know, I have two little ones. Well, I guess not so little, 12-year-old and an 8-year-old at home. But that being said, I did need to wait for them to be a little bit older for me to be able to start my own practice. So understanding where that balance comes from, there's no way I would have been able to do it when they were really little, itty bitty. I
yeah,
needed them to have their independence, right? To have some of that space and time back to put into Rising Sun. But, before that, being a therapist, helping in the family realm, working in home with families and kids, and helping those mamas and parents be able to have better relationships with their kids, and making sure the kids stay in the home, working really intensely. So bringing in the therapist piece, bringing in the mom piece, obviously the wife, we have to work on our relationships with our partners, especially since I'm lucky enough to have, great support from my husband in creating Rising Sun, as he is the business backbone. And, having that support, was able to start Rising Sun within the pandemic, virtually.
yeah.
And, all these pieces finally coming together.
So obviously you had young kids, you were working for other people, and then
Hmm.
finally felt like you had that they were a little bit big enough that you could kind of
Yes.
step out and do your own thing. Was that something that you always wanted to do, was have your own practice?
I did. And then working with a group practice prior to Rising Sun, I was like, I don't know if I really want that,
Okay.
all that extra stuff to do on the back end. But with COVID and the pandemic and everything being telehealth and, certain things happening, I was like, you know what? This is it. This is the time. I have the support. The cost to start was minimal being telehealth. I was like, let's do it. It's kind of like ripping off the band-aid and being like, get these things in order. And then luckily I was able to have someone join with me on the ride. My colleague, and we both started together, where she sees the teens and women and I see the women. I now say the new mamas to the grandmoms and everybody in between, at Rising Sun. So, and then we're starting our third year now.
Well,
So
congratulations.
thank you. Thank you. It
Yeah,
goes by
so
fast.
right, it's like your business was a newborn and now they're in that toddler stage where it can be a little troublesome and you got to figure out
Oh,
like what are we going to do. So, you
yes.
said this was something that you thought about and then had some hesitations, but it felt like the right
Hmm.
time. And so you serve women. Like why,
Yeah.
how did you end up serving women specifically? Like why, not only women, but why women?
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I think being a woman and understanding the intricacies of what
Uh,
it takes to be a woman, be a mom, be all the roles at once, all the time. And just working with them throughout my career, working with them when I was in their homes, in outpatient settings, and just hearing all the time from the new moms and even the older moms that they don't have that village, right? And then with the
Yeah.
pandemic, nobody had a village.
Yeah.
And right. So hearing it all the time, like, I don't have friends, I don't have anyone, all my friends don't have kids, where we're in this different stage of life. And knowing that with my first, I would not have been able to get through some things without them, and
Hmm.
just my heart breaking for the women, for the moms to say, I don't have that.
Yeah.
And then the helper in me just being like, how can I create this? What do I got to do? So you have that village because, it is cliche, but we need our support.
Yeah. So is it something where obviously you're a piece of the village because you are providing them a safe space to come and share, but is it also something where you're offering them resources and support in how to build that village or create that village? Because
Mhm.
honestly, in my own motherhood journey, like I did have, at the time, I thought I had at least a little bit of a village. But looking back, it really wasn't that supportive. It really wasn't what I needed at the time. It wasn't enough. And I would kind of complain about it, just saying, like, oh, this or that. But really, it was because I didn't have the support that I needed as a new mom. And, you
Mhm.
know, as an independent woman, as a first time mom who worked with kids, I came in very confidently to parenting, thinking, I don't need help. I got this. I
Mhm.
can do this. And thank goodness my husband also was very supportive and took on a big piece of parenting and doing all of the pieces because we were both working. But outside of each other, we didn't really have a lot of support. And I didn't realize how much support I was lacking and what that was doing to me. And so I'd love to know, like, how do you support those women? Like, what
Sure.
what would you have taught me in those moments?
Right. Well, I think it goes back to, even as a woman, as a first time mom, we're not told what we're going to need
Yeah,
afterwards, right?
yeah,
So that's why new mamas are floundering, right? We're
yeah.
all floundering
I remember my
in
husband
that.
saying when we had our first, and I came home and, I had a natural delivery and I struggled to walk up the stairs that first day. And he was
Mhm.
like, I didn't realize how much you were going to need
Mhm.
after you had a baby or after we
Mhm.
had a baby. And I remember like him telling other people, like, oh, like your wife also needs some support
Yeah.
because nobody talks about that.
Nobody, doctors don't, parents don't, nobody tells you, right? So that's where I like to, work with moms specifically during the pregnancy
Hmm.
period, those 9 months, and be like, this is what you will need, right?
Yeah.
Whether you believe me or not, at this point,
Because we think we know what we're going to need.
we think we do. We have no way to conceptualize, though,
No.
right? As a woman, we are changed from the inside out when we have a baby, right? Everything changes from our cells to our brain chemistry. Everything changes. So we can't conceptualize, oh, yeah, I will need that. Or I do know that that's going to be hard. We have no idea, right? So at least during the pregnancy period, I can say, you know what? I know all these people, and we're going to connect you with your village. We're going to connect you with providers. We're going to connect you with maybe family members. Let's work on those relationships.
Yeah.
Let's look at friendships that might be able to help you facilitate, meal trains and things
Hmm.
like that that go beyond the first 2 weeks. And, let's find your people as much as you can now. And then afterwards, we do have specific groups for women in general at Rising Sun. We have specific modalities that we use, like art therapy. We've had other workshops. We've had sound healers come in. Um, right now with our dietitian, we are going to be starting a postpartum support group in June. So we're able to, I'm able to see them through their pregnancy,
Yeah,
postpartum, and then get them immediately into a group of other moms with babies under 12 months so they can all go through the changes together
right.
with
Having
the
that
guidance.
community, having other people going through it at the same time is so important.
So
Yeah,
important.
yeah, absolutely.
Hmm. And then also with moms that have babies, 8, 9, 10 months old, they can also say, you know what? I remember that. This is what helped me. You're going to get through it, to also offer that hope.
Yeah. Do you
Right.
find, one of my biggest challenges was I would say like I think I should go to therapy when I was going through these struggles. And I got a lot
Mhm.
of, now I know it was gaslighting unintentionally, but like more of like, oh, it's just the way it is, or that's just the way you are, or well, of course you're overwhelmed. You have 3 kids who are under 4. And so I honestly thought like this is just the way it's going to be. And it didn't feel right, but I also thought that like it had to be worse to go to therapy. Looking back, it was pretty bad that I was
Mhm.
already at the worst. But how how do we get the word out there that like just the daily struggles of motherhood are worthy of therapy? I know when I started therapy,
Mhm.
my therapist was like, every woman deserves to talk about themselves for an hour a week. And I was like, yes, yes, they
Yeah.
do about anything they want. And just to
Mhm.
feel validated and heard.
Yeah.
And so, how do we, or maybe you're seeing that that stigma is kind of changing, or like maybe there's something that you're doing. I'd love to
Yeah. I think the
hear more.
stigma is changing. I don't think it's fast enough, but it's definitely changing. I would definitely say for the millennials and newer generations, it is absolutely changing because they are tired of how it was.
Yeah.
So they're more willing to come and talk about it. I think the struggle comes when you go to your doctors and you're saying, oh, I'm feeling horrible, I'm feeling this, and they're just handing out scripts. Um, I am hearing more doctors handing out a script and telling them to go to therapy, which is
Okay.
fantastic. Um, but it is, when we go to a dear friend and they just sucked it up and they were like, well, this is what I went through. So it's normal. You'll be fine. I was fine. Right. When maybe you're not fine. It's
Yeah.
okay to not be fine, but you have to find that support.
Yeah. And having similar experiences, but when one person is fine to just push through and another person is not fine to push through, like I found I wasn't fine to push through, but the people that I was sharing with either weren't having the same experience or pushed through and they were like, well, you'll figure it out. Like you just will.
Mhm.
Like at what expense? But
Right.
it
And
was
it
at my expense.
always, it's
Yeah.
always at your expense. Right.
Yeah. And then as a new mom too, like putting putting that kind of investment in myself
Mhm.
was not at my forefront.
Mm-mm.
And so how like the women that come to you, is this something that they just feel like they're ready for something? They're just looking for support because they know it exists? Like how are they finding you and knowing to do this?
A lot of times it's a referral from sometimes a doctor, sometimes from a friend.
Okay.
Most of our referrals are word of mouth. So it's our clients being like, hey, I had this great experience. You sound like you could talk to somebody. Here's the information. I do feel like right now a lot of women are just like done. I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to do this by myself, so I'm
Yeah.
going to reach out. um And luckily they do. And even if we can't see them because we're full or something, I am able to give them a few names and pass them on to somebody. So it's not, they're not stopped here. Um, so I think trying to find a supportive friend to talk to that is maybe more open to helping find support.
Yeah.
If if you go to your mom and they're like, hey, I went through the same thing, you'll be fine, suck it up, try to sleep, right? That's not helpful at all. But at least that's, my parents' generation,
Yeah.
that's the advice they're going to give. Okay, not so helpful.
Right.
Right. So it's also knowing within that village who can you talk to and who's going to be able to actually listen
Well,
to
and
what
then
you have to say.
you have some groups that are kind of on that preventative, that wellness side.
Mm-hmm.
So, someone can kind of say, oh, well, I don't need therapy, but I can
Mm-hmm.
come check out like this art class,
Mm-hmm.
art therapy workshop where I
Yep.
can feel and then figure out like, oh, something that I can
Mm-hmm.
use a little bit more of. So what do those
Yeah.
workshops look like?
Sure. So the workshops, they are for clients, but they're also for the community. So sometimes we have people bring in their family members, bring in their friends, come do it together. And especially for the art therapy workshop that's monthly, we come, we do a little project, and then we're able to talk about maybe what that project brought up for us. There's no You don't have to share if you don't want to, especially if it's your first time. But we do have repeat clients that come, so they're starting to get to know each other and be able to, share a little bit more. But is being able to talk about this project, not necessarily us and our deepest, darkest secrets, right? But when we do this art project, we are putting ourselves into it. And when you go around the table, they're all drastically different. But if you ask everyone, they'll say, well, I did this because of this, and this, and this, and this. It's all very different. But I guarantee we can all relate to each other
Yeah.
in some way and be there. And, just have a small, intimate group of women to be like, yep, I see you. I was there. Right. And maybe this is how I managed that, or this is what I did when I felt like that. Right. So you're getting support, but it's not, sitting there one on one, which can still be intimidating for some people, but you're still being seen, you're still being heard in a group, fun setting.
Right. It's a little lighter
Mm-hmm.
with the art.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
What
Yeah.
what kind of projects do you do in those workshops?
Our latest one, the art therapist brought in tons of books of pressed dried flowers that she has kept for a very long time.
Okay.
And she brought in little vessels like wine glass, a vase, and mason jar. And we put the flowers around the jar and we used Mod Podge. And so, but then when it's done, it looks like a frosted glass with flowers all around. And then you can put a tea light in it. Another one was we made a box and it was like a self-love type of box. So we decorated the entire box, but inside we wrote down some of our accomplishments. We wrote down coping skills. We wrote down things to help us stay active. So you take it home and you can pull it out being like, oh, I don't feel so great today. Well, here's my box. What's this say? Oh,
You've got
okay.
a little bit of a, yeah. Funny, I had a box that I learned from one of my coaches. She called it the tending basket. And so I created a box that had like things that made me feel good in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept it actually in the corner that I'm in. We used to have a different chair here, and I would keep it right here because on those days where the kids were all home, or maybe they weren't, but I was just kind of like having a tough day, I knew that my journal
Mm-hmm.
was in there, like my markers, my coloring book. I kept my headphones in there because if I wanted to turn on music, I made my own playlist. Like I love
Mm-hmm.
that idea of
Mm-hmm.
having a box that you can go to
Yep.
or like a tangible thing that you can go
Yep.
to and then remembering to actually go there and use
Yes,
it.
it needs to be visible, right? You have to remember, oh yeah, I have that box, right? But then it also takes out the thinking
Yeah.
when you're not feeling so great, right? Or
Mhm.
you're too anxious and you can't think, or the kids are over here screaming and you don't know what's going on. You know, oh my gosh, and you see that box, you go, okay, I
Yeah.
need that box right
And
now.
because it kept me also from like scrolling. So I used it a lot
Mm,
actually when my littlest one was probably really little, a baby. She would take a nap and I would find myself
mm,
like she would take a nap and 2 hours later she would wake up and I would be like, well, I just scrolled for 2 hours. What did I do?
yeah, yeah.
And so what I did was I created this basket and the first thing I did was I went to that basket. So as soon as she went to sleep, I
Mm,
went to that basket and picked something because
yeah.
then the first 10 minutes of her nap were for me. And then if I
Yes.
decided to scroll after that, I
Mm-hmm.
knew I did something for myself before I did something mindless, or I
Mm-hmm.
intentionally decided to scroll or do
Right.
whatever it was. I was much more intentional with my decision, but that also made a big difference for me too, because she would go down for a nap, the other kids would be at school or wherever they might be, and I would just lose myself. I would
Mm-hmm.
just zone out because I was exhausted. And so just building in those skills
Mm-hmm.
in those little moments really helped. And then I started using them more often. But then I found
Yep.
too, the better I felt, the less I sought them out.
Yes. Yes, yes. But that's, as a very busy mom or a very busy woman, we sometimes only have those 10 minutes,
Yeah.
right? So if you do have a box, and sometimes with my clients, we do anxiety toolkits where it's very similar, but it's when
Hmm.
you feel, really activated, the thinking goes out the window. And when you're exhausted, the thinking is already gone. So if you've already planned and put things in this box or basket, you don't have to think about it. Like you said, you just go to it
Yeah.
and you just pick, oh, okay, I'm going to do this 10 minutes, 5 minutes. And then you might find yourself wanting to do more. Or, and it's bringing in that intentionality of, okay, I just wrote, 2 sentences in my journal. That's fine. What do I actually want to do
Right.
right now?
I thought journaling would help, but it doesn't feel good. So what's actually going to
Right.
feel? But it does. It helps you to take a step back. I'd love to know
Mhm.
like what kinds of things do you have in your maybe your tangible basket or
Mhm.
your thought basket that you use to take care of yourself.
Yes. A lot of it is music.
Okay.
So if I'm trying to focus, say, do my notes, I have a playlist that I go to that may or may not have words, but it's specific music that will keep me activated and engaged.
Hmm.
So I can do something boring like notes, or do something like that. Right.
Yeah.
So if I'm feeling really sluggish, I know what music I need to kind of pick me up
Yeah.
enough. Or if I'm feeling really, really sluggish or just grumpy in the morning, getting the kids ready, I'll put on my music. And then, 99% of the time, my daughter's like, nope, we're going to listen to some Taylor Swift. I go, fine, I'll listen to some Taylor. It's all right. But it's also, modeling for her, this helps us get going,
Yeah.
right? It puts us in a good mood. So for me, a lot of times it's music. Other times it's getting outside. It's getting outside, going for a walk, just sitting outside
Yeah.
sometimes, right? Even on a day like today where it's cloudy, but it's warmer, thank
Yeah.
goodness, just going outside, taking in that deep breath of right now spring air, which is lovely,
Yeah.
right?
I know.
Even if you, right, just
That's it.
walk
Like
around your
I know in
house.
February and March when I am not getting outside as much, it definitely
Hmm.
hits me hard. And so as this weather gets nicer, it's so
Yes.
much easier to be outside. And I don't
Yes.
mind, I don't love the cold. I don't mind it, but I want to be comfortable. And so that's
Mhm.
what I'm like, all right, well, I can go outside. But again, like I'm so much less likely to want to go out for a walk or do those
Mhm.
things outside that make me feel good. Whereas as the weather gets nicer, I'm like, yeah, I'll go lay in the grass. Let me go take my shoes off and sit in the
Yes.
grass and put my feet on the ground and
Yes.
feel it. So yeah,
Yes, yes. And for me, if there's, a lot of strong feelings or just repetitive stuff going on, I will have to write it down because I will literally feel that release of, ugh, it's gone. And then I won't have those thoughts
yeah,
anymore. So writing for me is a huge release.
yeah, get it out of your mind and onto the paper.
Yes, yes. And it's any piece of paper or it's notes in your phone or on the
Mhm.
computer. It's just getting it out of here somewhere else, put it on the shelf, burn it, shred it. You don't need it.
Yeah, right. It doesn't need to stay up here. It doesn't do you any good on loop.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And I love to-do lists. I love them. Get it out. I can't keep it all up in here,
Yeah.
As a working mom, there's no way to keep all of it up there. Write
Yeah,
it down.
well, and with all of those, as we talked about at the beginning, all the roles that you have, all the things, so that's how you're maintaining all of those things is you do a lot of to-do lists.
A lot of to-do lists.
All right.
Yes, all over the place. 3 calendars, to-do lists, all of it, just to stay organized enough, just to stay organized enough.
Oh
Yes.
my goodness. And then like, so how many women do you have working with you currently? I think you mentioned
I, mhm.
two.
Yes, I have 2 virtual therapists right now, currently hiring, hopefully for some in person. And then in office, we also have our in office dietitian. She has her own practice, but I still consider her under the umbrella of Rising Sun. And then, like the workshops, like the art therapy, we have yoga on Wednesdays, the postpartum group, but that's Holly and I. So it's, just bringing in different people to do workshops, classes,
Yeah, and
all in our space.
and you work together in terms of collaboration or like supporting each other or knowing like
Hmm.
which client is the right fit
Yes.
for which therapist? How does that
Yes.
process work in your space?
Yeah, everything comes filters through me. Phone calls, emails come to me and they go, well, I want to work on trauma, grief, and anxiety. All right, you're going to Wendy. She's trauma certified. That would be your best fit. Or someone's like, I have some grief, but it's hitting my parenting and I just need to figure out a little bit more in motherhood. They're going to Lauren. If someone comes to me, they're saying, hey, it's really, 3 months ago I had a baby and I'm struggling, they're coming to me. Um, and then everyone in between, it's just like, what do you need to work on?
Yeah,
Then it's what hours are you available, which insurance, and just the nitty gritty information. But it's really figuring out Wendy sees a certain type of client along with the teens. I see a certain type of client, and then Lauren sees a certain type of client.
you can really match the right
Mm-hmm.
each woman to the right provider to give them the right
Yes.
resources
Yes.
and make sure that they're targeting the what it is that they're really going through. That's the
Yeah.
main thing.
Yeah. And if we can't, for some reason, like it's not something we work
Mhm.
on, we're not full, then I have a massive list of referrals, um, trying to keep my village
Yeah.
very big and far so I can say, here's a couple names that I know would be a good fit for you.
Yeah. And where do you see Rising Sun going over the next few years?
Well, I hope,
Prepare for it.
yeah, yeah. So big the big idea in the next couple of years is to have a good foundation of several therapists to see all our teens and women, but then also bring in more of the wellness services, the workshops, the classes, bring building the Rising Suns Village of practitioners that are able to help our clients, and just having that kind of weekly flow of certain the yoga classes, art more frequently, different workshops. We have a parenting workshop coming up at the end of May. So and then the postpartum group is going to be starting. So it's ultimately every night or every day would have a different class or workshop. Just hitting that other piece that we all need, right? Talk therapy is not going to help everything. We need to focus on our bodies. We need to focus on our even the spiritual piece of that.
Yeah, and
So
that
it's
that wellness piece, right? And I think there's more awareness for that wellness piece, but I also think that that wellness piece gives people more permission to access the support that they need. Like I know that I would have gone to like an art therapy workshop, but I didn't, but I wouldn't have gone to like a therapy, like one-on-one therapy. And
mm-hmm.
because I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know that
Yeah.
how much I could have benefited from that. And maybe
Mm-hmm.
starting something like a group or starting something that's a little bit less intimidating for some people, as you said, allows you to kind of get your foot in the door. And so if I'm coming to art
Mm-hmm.
therapy and I get to know you and now I want to
Mm-hmm.
work with you one on one, I already know who you are. I already know
Yes.
who I'm getting because that's a
Mm-hmm.
big struggle for many women too, is finding somebody that they feel comfortable with and knowing that they're a good fit. I know that was a struggle
Mm-hmm.
for myself as well, finding someone who wasn't triggered by what I went through. Unfortunately, that was a very
Mm.
traumatic experience in
Oh
my
no.
first therapy.
Oh.
But that's important to have that connection
Mm-hmm.
because what I did was I just went and said, okay, who's covered by my insurance?
Right.
I'll pick this person.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't end up being a good fit. And so I
Yeah.
knew the next time to then get on a discovery call, talk to the person, get to know them, and then make the decision from there, which really
Mm-hmm.
benefited me greatly in having a relationship with somebody that I trusted,
Yeah.
and could grow. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that those workshops are so important, and hopefully more women start to participate in them and show up for them because there is so much benefit for
Mm-hmm.
everybody in them. And the more you do those things, the less we need the therapy on the other side. The the illness. What is it that I'm looking for? Like this, the opposite of the prevention. Like, right? Like if we're doing all of the preventing, we need less on the other side. So if we start putting
Yeah.
the resources into that prevention, it's so helpful to everyone.
It is. It's more of that health care, taking care of your health before you
Yeah.
become sick. So it's less of the sick care, it's more of the health care,
Yeah.
that preventive piece. So you don't have burnout and you don't have breakdowns and right. So because yes, it's cliche, but a woman has to take care of herself. A mom has to take care of herself before she can take care of somebody else.
Yeah.
You just have to, or you will hit that burnout. You will have that breakdown. You will be calling and saying, I'm done. I
Right.
can't do it anymore. I don't want to be a mom. I want to run away.
That's
Right.
that's exactly where I was. And
Yeah.
I started saying too, like everyone says, like, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. And I was like, well, who's helping mama to feel happy?
Yeah.
That's actually a lot of
Exactly.
pressure. Like that's a lot of pressure on a mom to, well, if you don't feel happy, then your whole family won't feel happy.
Right.
Like, yeah, it's kind of true. But also, like, if you don't have the right support in place, wow, that means your whole family's gonna crash and burn too. And it's all on you. So we
Right.
got
Too
to get those
much.
mamas supported. We got to get those mamas happy and filled with joy and do all of those things. So I
Mhm.
love that you're doing what you do.
Mhm.
Where and
Thank
how
you.
can people find you on, like,
Sure.
where do they find you?
Sure. RisingSunTherapy.com is our website, and I do keep everything under events up to date. And they can RSVP for events there, check out the profiles of our collaborators, the therapists, contact us right through there. They are able to jump on our newsletter through the website. So, right in your inbox, I will send you some tips and give you information about all the yoga, all the workshops coming up. On Instagram, I am just Leah Andreoni, and on Facebook, it is under Rising Sun Therapy. And they can email me, Leah at risingsuntherapy.com, and I will get back to them fairly quickly.
And you do virtual services and in-person services. And where's your in-person location?
Right in Harleysville on Main Street.
Awesome. Well, Leah, thank you so much. I love that you're doing this for women, moms specifically, because as I mentioned, I wish I knew what I didn't know. But
Right?
what a
Yeah.
great resource you are for so many women in our community. And thank you for sharing about it. And I'll share in the comments as well and in the summary of the show how people can reach out to you and find you if they're looking for that kind of support and those kind of workshops and events. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you
Of
so
course.
much.